Good morning. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Commissioners meeting this morning. If you will, if you'll join me for a moment of silent prayer, and then we will do the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of the agenda.
Second.
So motion and second for the approval of the agenda. We'll do roll call voting. Mr. Dixon. Mr. Jeffries. Mr. Owens. Mr. Oates.
Aye.
Mr. Massey.
Aye.
Mr. Zay. Aye. Motion carries. Approval of the consent agenda A through C.
So Commissioners, you'll see on the consent agenda that there are 3 budget amendments to the current year's budget ordinance. For the most part, these budget amendments address funding received by the county, by state, federal, and outside agencies for use by the county. They also address ARPA funding received by the county, which brings us in compliance with the ever-changing state and federal regulations. There are fully detailed explanations of each budget amendment with the budget amendment.
I'm assuming the second amendment is the one where we moved all the rescue funds over into general funds. Is that correct?
Not into general funds. We moved $611,272 into the general fund with the second budget amendment. The revenue replacement we're using only includes salary amounts for EMS and the sheriff's office. That totaled $611,272 for that period.
Where the rest of the money goes in?
The rest of the ARPA money,
That time?
until it's designated as revenue replacement, sits in a special revenue fund. Until we can't designate it as revenue replacement until we've spent the money for salaries, for those salaries. So it sits in a special revenue fund.
So that's the third, thing.
Some of it is, yes. Some of the ARPA dollars are still sitting in a special revenue fund, and they will be expended as the salaries are paid to employees for revenue replacement.
How much is in that fund?
Currently, the total fund amount was $4,390,000 and some change. That was the total fund amount. That was the total ARPA dollar received. ARPA dollars received. So if you look at it, you say $4,390,000 minus $611,272. And then what's on budget amendment number 3? You come up with that. Do you want me to do that? $3,385,150.
So I see a lot of figures back and forth, just simplify it for me. How much, is that what we have left out of the argument that is not been allocated to something else?
So all of the ARPA funds except $330,000 we used for premium pay will be used as revenue replacement. Okay? Those revenue replacement dollars will then be, for lack of a better word, supplanted in our general fund for any approved use by a local government. So when you say, when you ask the question, is that all we have left of the ARPA dollars? That's all we have left to appropriate as revenue replacement. Much of that money has already been used as revenue replacement. The 611,000 and the 393,578. Following this correct, will already have been expended as revenue replacement and been put into the general fund. So that much of that money is still sitting in the general fund. So even though we allocated it as revenue replacement.
I understand that. Let me ask you in a different way, to see if it's so simple. With the federal money that's been poured into the budget, the additional spending of vehicle salaries, et cetera, added to the budget, what is the net difference of what would be left of the extra money that was put into the budget versus what we have to spend?
In this budget, there's $3.2 million being expended as ARPA dollars that are revenue replacement factors. 3.2 million. Some of that $3.2 million is being used to supplant salaries. Okay.
I understand that.
Okay, so it's setting in our general fund and makes up fund balance. So does that answer your question?
Now, I'm looking at sustainability. What I'm trying to figure out is with all the extra money that's been put into this budget, all the extra spending that's been put into this budget. After all this is condensed down and boiled out, going forward from this point, next year, the year after, what are we looking at in being able to maintain what's been added to this budget versus the amount of income coming into the county, along with a projected increase with the taxes to start paying for the high school? I'm concerned about a problem if the recession hits where we're going to get into a situation where we're overspending, we're going to have to raise taxes and concerns.
All of the ARPA dollars that have been allocated have, one exception, have been one-time expenditures. They have been for radios, they have been for premium pay, they have been for special allocations that we made, that the board set up. All of those dollars are one-time expenditures, except for one item. And those are the salary increases that were given with the last salaries. If you remember in the sheet that I passed out to the board, to make that sustainable, it was, and don't quote me on this number, but I believe I'm close, $798,000 of the ARPA funds were needed to get us to a point to where those salary increases were sustainable. As revenue, as debt service dropped off, and as other savings were incurred, then we needed to use less and less of the ARPA dollars. I believe there were 4 or 5 years that we needed to use some amount of ARPA dollars to sustain those salary increases that were given. And I believe it was $798,000.
I understand that part. I'm talking about new positions. I'm talking about 16 vehicles we added yesterday, the vehicles that were added last year. Expenses like that on a recurring lease payment, that payment's going to be due this year, but it's going to be due the next year, the next year, the next year, and then when they run out, they want it renewed, so bad, a never-ending cycle of debt obligation on the part of the people in the county.
So those things have very little to do with the ARPA dollars. I think what the Board of Commissioners has done is made decisions on how they wanted to see the county operate. And that's what they've instructed us to put in this budget. Okay. The ARPA dollars that are flowing through and into the budget as revenue replacement have very specific things that they're to be used for. And those have been outlined in previous meetings with the board. And they're the same things that I mentioned, special funds that the board has set up for the cleaning service that we had, coming and clean some buildings during the COVID pandemic. They're for radios for our fire departments. They're for 2 ambulances, 1 new ambulance, 1 remounted ambulance. They're for specific one-time purchases. So the sustainability.
Appointment will be an ongoing thing. Some of these, when these radios fail, we're gonna.
So that.
Let me do this. I appreciate your attempt. We don't see it eye to eye on it. I don't want to take up time on this board. Let's just go on.
Yes, ma'am.
I have to be directed a question. I'm sorry, I haven't met my name's Deborah Mack. I do want to mention, if you look at your audits previously, you appropriate fund balance almost every year. But if anyone's looked at your statistics, you're returning an added fund balance every year, not really using it. And the biggest problem is what you're trying to address with the pay study. You can't keep employees, just can't keep them. Public safety alone, 3 years running, was over $1 million unspent for budget. $1 million. That is an ongoing problem, and I'm not going to tell the board what to do, but if you don't address that, which I think you have, sounds like you have, the fact that even if you gave some people some raises, you're still gonna have multiple vacancies. You probably heard of this budget. Departments need to get positions filled, whether you get them to or not. And it's good sound budgeting to budget 100% of your employees because you're never gonna have all the positions. So when you have a downturn in the economy or supply chain issue, and all of a sudden you had an increased cost for replacement of vital piece of equipment, you really don't have to appropriate money during the year because you've got these lapsed positions you can do. You're advertising over. I mean, I look, advertising, reopening, trying to get people to come to work, and it's just very difficult because right now people can name your price and go anywhere and get paid 2-3 times. It'd be very difficult. I don't know any agency that's able to keep police officers right now unless you're Charlotte or something like that, or Robert, that can pay unbelievable amounts of money for public safety. So, and that's not just those positions, it's all positions. Finance, you can't get people to come to work to do finance work or any department. I mean, I'm looking across the board, you have vacancies almost everywhere, and that's not unique here. I'm just trying to put you at ease that the only way you would ever potentially have a problem if you had to replace all your equipment in 1 year and you were 100% employed. Your statistics does not bear. Deborah.
Deborah, I appreciate your insight on it, but if we were to pay all the county employees what they, is there some kind of huffing and puffing in this room that needs to be addressed, man? Show me a little respect. Show me a little respect. You think getting the biggest beat down at the commissioner's race, the worst loss fighting company in history of the home, you need to.
Please.
If you'll get him to stop getting on my back, I will not respond to him. He keeps intimidating me. I'm not gonna sit and put up with it.
Continue.
Ma'am, I appreciate your insight, but if we were to pay the county employees, what would be competitive with Charlotte and surrounding areas? Our tax rate would shoot through the roof. We're doing the best we can with what we can. We're not slighting anybody. We're trying to do what we can to also help the employees in the county, but be sensitive to the fact that we're a poor county. We don't have the deep pockets that Charlotte, Mecklenburg, Wake, none of these people can be compared to what we're dealing with. And we have an economic situation on the horizon where if we go into a recession, that's going to be a problem for revenues coming into this county. It's going to put hardships on people paying these taxes. That's where I'm coming.
I just want to explain having budgeting for 100% positions,
Thank you, ma'am.
just to put some at ease on that side, that you have significant money to spend every year.
And just to add to that and address one of your comments, Mr. Dickerson. On that salary study that the board addressed several months ago, the board only approved 90% of the recommended minimum salary. So we're not trying to compete with Raleigh or Charlotte.
You don't have to go in, Brian, I don't want to tie the time up, I understand, I voted for the salary.
Yes,
increase.
and we
I
appreciate
understand
that very much.
That is not the issue. The issue is we pay what everybody else pays in the higher around counties around us. We bankrupt each group in this county. You see foreclosures on property trying to pay that county.
Sure.
We go to the next one, folks.
So, commissioners, I think what you still have in front of you are 3 budget amendments under the consent agenda.
Question is make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Roll call vote. Mr. Dixon.
Aye.
Mr. Jeffers. Mr. Owen. Mr. Carter.
Aye.
Mr. Massengale. Mr. Banks. Motion carried. Adoption of the 22-23 fiscal year budget. Mr. Miller.
Commissioners, I'm pleased to present the 22-23 budget ordinance in compliance with NCGS 159-8 through NCGS 159-13 in accordance with the Local Government Budget and Fiscal Control Act. This budget ordinance has been compiled with significant input from the Board of Commissioners, For that, I say thank you. Also want to acknowledge the extremely difficult and hard work that our finance department, with the assistance of Greg Isley and Associates CPA, has put into the development of this budget. We have the lead member of the Isley team, Deborah Mack, with us here today. Jennifer Hammock and Melissa Miller have done a tremendous job working through the budgeting process, while at the same time addressing multiple other non-routine finance processes. This has been a difficult budgeting process and would not have been possible without the board's input, Isley and Associates, and the hard work of our finance team. Throughout the budgeting process, we made numerous statements that there would be no tax increase and no use of fund balance to complete this year's budget. You will notice that in the budget ordinance, there is an appropriation of $1,235,126. Most of you will remember the presentation I gave several months ago that addressed revenue replacement and how the American Rescue Plan dollars could be used to reimburse expenditures for the period of March 3rd, 2021 through March 31st, 2022 as revenue replacement. At that point, those ARPA dollars became general fund dollars or fund balance dollars because we used them as suggested by the UNC school government. This method reduces state and federal reporting and also precludes local government from federal procurement processes. In the appropriated project ordinance for ARPA dollars in last year's budget, there was included radios referred to as frequency 800 radios that allowed us to use the state's VIPER system for all local volunteer fire departments, for EMS, the sheriff's office, and for 911 communications. There was also an ambulance remount included in the same fund. These items were not able to be bought this year due to many different factors, but the most prevalent factor was supply chain shortages. These public safety items have carried through to or rolled over into the 2022-2023 budget. Because we categorize the ARPA dollars as revenue replacement dollars, those dollars were then taken from ARPA bucket of dollars and poured into the general fund, becoming fund balance dollars. These fund balance dollars appropriated in 2022 have also carried over and rolled through to fund those same purchases that were approved in 2022. This is to aid our fire departments, our first responders, and our paramedics to better care for the residents of our county. As I mentioned earlier, we do have Deborah Mack from Greg Isley and Associates with us today. She is a retired finance director from Wilmington, North Carolina. Jennifer Hammock, Melissa Miller, and I can answer any questions you may have regarding the 2022-2023 budget ordinance. So if you have any questions, we're happy to answer those questions.
I'll take a minute to do this.
Does this reflect all the changes we've made in all the work sessions?
Yes,
The decreases, the added couple of positions?
that's correct.
Okay. I have one issue that slipped my mind, and that's concerning the position that the health department asked for.
Okay.
And we deleted that health department. However, we did okay the position that DSS asked for, with the caveat that she not exceed the current number of employees she had. I believe, if I remember correctly, she's got 6 vacancies. So we okayed her hiring that specialized social worker in lieu of one of those positions without her going over her 56 positions. Now, due to my neglect of homework on that, I have since found out the health department has open positions. I would like to motion that the health department be given the same authority to hire that part-time special assistant, with the same caveat that she not go over her current number of employees, so that if she deems it necessary to take one of those positions and put it to the part-time administrative assistants, I think she should have that opportunity to do that, which would make this at the very most revenue neutral. I think it's only fair if we do it for one department, we do it for the other.
So if I understand correctly, you wish to authorize the reclassification by the health director from one class to another without any change in overall salaries. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And just as the board did with DSS, so no increase to the budget, just a reclassification of position.
That's correct. And continue with the caveat that no more new positions in either one of those departments.
No adding to the head count.
That's correct.
Okay. We've already prepared the budget ordinance. I would need just a consensus or a vote from the board to be able to do that.
You want motion or consensus? Do you have a question, Mr. Jeff?
I don't have a question. I thought we got the 6th position filled, that the board would fill fund this extra position that they gave to Social Service.
Yeah,
I brought that question.
Yeah, you brought that up, and
I'm not, I'm at another check.
yeah, you brought that up,
Yeah,
and
I made myself clear. I
yeah,
thought
you did. And ours is, my motion is the same thing. If she gets to that point, if either one of them get to that point, they come back to the board and say, hey, I just feel my position. Okay,
I'm fine.
Ready to motion or consensus?
I'd like you to make a motion.
I make the motion that we allow the health department director to spend the money for the same amount of salaries. I'm not sure how.
Reclassify the position.
Reclassify the position without adding to her employment census to hire the assistant administrative part-time.
I'm looking at the justification here for the administrative assistant to the health director. I'm not sure that's a part-time position.
Okay. Sorry. I thought somewhere in my mind it was 30 hours.
30 hours a week would still be classified.
Okay.
So even if it's 30, it's still,
Okay.
we provide salary, we provide benefits to those employees 30 hours, a week, correct?
Okay. Okay.
We have a motion, a second on the floor. Any more discussion? Any more questions on that? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. If there's no more discussion, we'll vote on this by roll call voting. Excuse me, Mr. Dickerson. Mr. Jeffers. Oh, Mr. Carter. Master Gill.
Aye.
Ms. Bay. Motion carries. Moving on, any more questions? Go ahead. You gonna say something?
No,
All right, if no more questions, we'll split it.
I make a motion, we approve the budget as written. With the no impact. Motion of.
I did run across it. Not a question, but something that the board may want to consider.
Bring it out.
When we approved that salary amounts that we did, which was good, we needed to do, what we failed to realize were some of the consequences that came from that. And what's happened on the lower end, where everybody makes $30,000, what's happened on the upper end is we get compressed salaries, which means this, for the supervisor making $62,000 got a 2% raise. The person making $59,000 got a, what raise? 7%. Well, what that did was, that put that position that does not require, it's not a supervisor position. It put them up there close to what the supervisor makes. And that creates a problem for us keeping those top level people. I just want to make the board aware of that. I think it's something the board's going to have to address at some time, because you could close the gap between the supervisor and other employees by only giving that 2%, which we did at the time because we felt like that was all we could do. But I just want to make the board aware of that. You need to understand what that salary compression does. It puts, and I don't know the proper term to use for that, but jobs with less responsibility closer to jobs with greater responsibility.
Or sometimes over.
Yeah, sometimes over those. And that does create a problem for those who were in the upper level. Now they're saying, well, man, I could be in a lower level, making just as much money or just about as much money. So it's just something the board that needs to consider down the road.
Are you suggesting we revise it before we approve this?
How many employees will be affected? Do you have those figures? And if so, how much are we talking about? I mean,
Give me a minute, let me see if I can find it.
What a lot.
Wasn't a whole lot.
Like 20 grand.
I mean, I wasn't on when y'all did it, but I looked at the figures and it wasn't many people left that they get something.
Okay, so for the employees that, for what's not already included in this year's budget, it would include 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 employees. Give me a minute, and I'll get the total.
Are they all department heads or upper administrative positions?
Yes.
And did we not possibly lose one of ours because she was gonna get $20,000 more? Or a higher figure, I'm sorry,
Yes.
a higher figure.
That has been one of the driving factors for one resignation and one very strong conversation that I've had with 2 department heads about the possibility. Actually 3. So the total, let me add in the benefits.
And Deborah, just for your information, I'm sure you know Raleigh has the same issue. The Raleigh Fire Department, at last knowledge that I had, was 70 firefighters short. They can't buy them, beg them, or steal them. And
So-
that's in a city that can pay.
So the total impact would be $31,520.45.
Say that again.
$31,520.45.
For the entire year for those 7 people.
That's correct.
So that's, give or take about $4,000 a year, give or take a few dollars.
That's correct.
And we cut $983,000 out of the budget when we went through the line by line.
Yeah, you cut over $900,000 of department requests down. Department or outside agency requests.
So do you need to rescind your motion?
We've got a second.
We still have a motion to take.
Yeah, sure.
I just have a question about it.
Does he need to rescind his motion if he wants to put this in here?
Yes, he can amend.
If you
All
want.
right. I make a motion, we approve the budget with the addition of $31,000 to bring the salaries up to match the rest of the salaries.
Motion on the floor in a second.
I'll second.
Motion and second, we'll do a roll call vote. Dixon,
No.
Mr. Jeffries. No. No strike.
Aye.
Last year.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Anything else? All right. We'll entertain the motion to adjourn.
I'll second. Make the motion.
We have a motion on the floor to adjourn in a second. Second. Have a motion. Sorry.
Yes. With the spirit.
We have a motion and a second on the floor to adjourn the meeting. Budget has been passed. All those in favor, roll call vote. Mr. Dixon. Mr. Jeffries.